Okay, Mech Warriors. Mech Tactics 101. That's what we're exploring at here. This is an amazing time for Battletech. We've got the 2 new box sets. We've got the new map packs. Scenarios are coming out. Old players are rejoining us from everywhere. The inner sphere, the call has gone out. We're reviving all the old Mech Warriors. We've got a ton of young bloods, neophytes, newly initiated, ready to go. And with this, the tactical depth that is existent in Battletech, it's a board game, but it's a war game, plus it's a role-playing game. There is a lot in there. So as you're learning the rules, I want to start making us aware of some of the tactics that you can utilize out of the core box. Now, certainly over time, you're going to get into total warfare and combined arms and start using tanks and infantry, city fight. Maybe you're going to use some air support, some artillery. You're going to grow your mech collection out. We'll get there, but there's a lot of core. There is a lot of value in this main box set and the starter set, 2 mech set 2. I call that the head-to-head set. It's a very, very excellent trainer. So we have a couple of mechs, and I reviewed each mech, pushed that up to the archive on my blog. So if you're coming into this podcast, this vlog from a recommended channel or some other entry point, just bookmark that afterwards. There are a number of mechs in the starter set that utilize long-range missiles. And some of them, like the catapult, are deadly because they have the 15-pack. We should cover LRMs very, very briefly here a little bit. You got 5, 10, 15, 20. When you shoot, you have to hit, and then there's a spread of damage. The reason why a 15 and 20 pack are deadly, simply because if you roll average, it's going to hit you for a good amount. If you roll legendary, that is a massive grouping of damage spread out across the mech. More chance for crits, more chance for damaging armor. It's quite punishing. Redundancy is very, very important in Battletech. 1 is none, 2 is some, 3 is 1. What makes the catapult beast, and the fact that it is a very potent mech, the lasers on the stock version, the lasers and the LRM, it's a 15-pack and it's double. So that means even some higher-end shots where you're moving, your opponent's moving, maybe there's a little bit of cover where you need 9s or 10s, 11s, and 12s to hit, you've got 2 chances at that, as opposed to something like the Griffin or other mechs where I only have 1 pack going in there, whether it's a 10 or a 15. 2 is something on there. So what we want to utilize, though, that's kind of the primer for LRMs. More detail is certainly in the LRM video and podcast up there on my channel. We want to look at indirect fire. So indirect fire is where literally you're firing indirect. The fact that you have the range and these unguided missiles have the spread, narrative-wise, essentially you're adjusting and calculating where the other mech or where the target is located, and you don't need line of sight. You have the ability to shoot over things and just kind of bomb a hex on there. It's not artillery in that it's vastly unguided. You're narrowing in, you're honing in on there in the narrative. What you need to make this happen to fire indirect is a spotter. So right away we're seeing an amazing use for the Locust, and we're seeing an amazing use for the catapult to tag team in here. So you can take the catapult, depending on the hex maps, depending on what you're playing on, be in a position where line of sight cannot be drawn to your mech. You're blocked, you're contained, you're not going to receive any return fire. And with another mech or with the Locust running it ahead, act as a spotter. Now, in that, the idea in the narrative is you're communicating back and forth, you're calling in a missile strike, you kind of know the general area based on the coordinates, based on the narrative and the information from the spotting unit. In Total Warfare, there are better ways to spot. In the core, you're limited to a mech. There are going to be modifiers, such as what the spotting mech is doing, the range, of course, the range modifiers from the catapult or the target that it's shooting from to. There's going to be cover if there's intervening cover between the spotter, right, because they're kind of calling in on that area. And there's a +1 indirect modifier on there. So what that really means is, while if you're in a position to indirect, you're ideally not moving, so at least you don't have the walk or run modifiers. All the other modifiers apply to what you're attacking, how many hexes they move, and then, of course, cover, terrain, elevation, and that +1. That means you're probably going to be hitting on 11s, 12s, even as you start to move into medium range on there. But it's worth taking the shot, because anytime you start taking fire in Battletech, it changes the battle plan. You know, it's one thing to be walking across the table, and I know a turn or two I'm going to be engaging you, but now as indirect LRM fire starts raining down and streaking in on me, even with needing 11 and 12s to hit, those are free shots. And in most scenarios, you're not going to run out of ammunition on there. We should look at ammo, too, and talk about ammo from the perspective of a new player going head-to-head. Take the shot. With what you have in the core set and the basic missions, always take the shot as soon as you can. And with indirect fire, the ability to shoot without being fired back, unless they indirect on you or another mech kind of makes an end run to run in, it's a great chance. It's a very, very potent tool, and it's a great tag team between the Locust and the Catapult.